What's good, y'all? Yeah, I took a page out of Thug Notes books, and now I'm trying to do different introductions for each video. I know, so cool. Alright, so today we have possibly the final election prediction going into the midterms. And I just posted a video a few days ago, and already some changes have happened. We've seen some new polling data, we've seen some more President Trump rallies in certain Senate races, and this is really starting to get close. So let's get into it. I can't talk. Alright. So today, I'm not going to be doing leaning or likely or anything. I'm just going to do all Republican states or all Democratic states. All solid. Because this is how I think I'll end up going on election night. So, as usual, I'll start in the Northeast because that's what I always do. New England's going to go solidly to the Democrats. And nothing's really changed there. New York will also go solidly to the Democrats. Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware will also go solid. I'm going to come back to New Jersey. I'm going to also come back to the Rust Belt because I want to talk about that. Virginia will go blue. Minnesota and Minnesota Special will also go blue. There has been some polling in the Minnesota Special election that shows it may be closer than we think, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I think the special race is going to go just with the Democrat Amy Klobuchar race. New Mexico, I've heard this argument many times, but there's another poll out showing Mitt Rich, the Republican, taking about 30 to 35% of the vote. And I just don't see a way for him or Gary Johnson to overcome Martin Heinrich's margin. Whether you like that or not, I just don't think there's enough data showing that could happen. And now California and Washington will also go to the Democrats. So the Democrats start with 39. Republicans currently have 42. And Utah, Wyoming, Nebraska, and both Mississippi races will go to the Republicans. So Republicans will get at least 47. So, back to the Rust Belt. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio. These are states, well, including Pennsylvania too, but I already covered that one. These are states that went to President Trump in 2016 that gave him the victory. And what are we seeing? Well, all three of them, I think, will end up going to the Democrats on election night. There just hasn't been enough polling data and enough turnout margins to put that in the GOP column. I saw some comments in the last video saying if 57 to 43 Republican win in the Senate, and that would be crazy. I don't think that's going to happen. But likewise, I don't think a 52-48 Democratic Senate is going to happen either. I do think Republicans definitely have an advantage this year. Even though it's a Democratic wave year, the seats that are up, for instance, Missouri, Indiana, Tennessee, Texas, these are all Republican states that President Trump won very handedly, or at least by 5 to 10% in 2016. So, the Republicans are already at the advantage. Plus, President Trump has gone to many of these Senate races, and in my opinion, has made it a lot more close for these GOP candidates. For instance, in Nevada, Dean Heller wasn't even winning in any of the polls. President Trump came out and did 2 rallies for him, and most polls show him ahead. So President Trump, whether Republicans do good or bad, you can't blame him because he is trying. He's trying to make it close, and he is rallying Republican vote. That being said, for the Democrats, same argument. Barack Obama and Joe Biden are both out campaigning for Democrat candidates. Not getting as big turnout as President Trump is, but they're still doing what they can to rally up their supporters as well. So it's definitely a fight to the finish for a lot of these races. Anyway, back on track. The Rust Belt will go blue. New Jersey. New Jersey is kind of something that if Republicans somehow win, that's a sign of terrible things to come for the Democrats, and 57-43 may actually be likely for a Republican takeover. And I think the fact that Bob Menendez is this unpopular, and yet every single poll still shows him ahead by at least 3 to 4%, I think says it all. And I guess Bob Kugan has said on stations like Fox News and such that the polls show him tied or close, and it's like, I feel like when you're running for Senate, you kind of have to say that. Like, you can't say, oh no, we're losing, because then your voters are like, oh, we're going to lose. But New Jersey, it's just too Democratic of a state, I think, for Bob Menendez to lose. West Virginia. So, West Virginia is interesting. This is one where President Trump has done pretty much everything he can. He's gone out and campaigned for Patrick Morrisey. He's done a lot. And some new polling numbers show it is close. Like, the most recent one from Emerson shows Manchin at 47, Morrissey at 42, and the Libertarian, Rusty Hall, at 3. And that is a close race. But if the Libertarian's taking 3% to Patrick Morrissey's 42, I don't think Morrissey can catch up from it because West Virginia is very conservative at the presidential level, and then at the state level, it elects many moderate Democrats, Joe Manchin being one of them. The current governor, Jim Justice, he ran as a Democrat and switched parties once got elected, but he was technically a Democrat. Also, Trump calls him Big Jim, which I just find really funny. I just think it's pretty funny the way he says it. So West Virginia, I think, will go blue. North Dakota, which I talked about many times, I think North Dakota, it could get closer, but it's going to go red. I mean, there's not really any arguing about it. Kevin Cramer's consistently led for a long, long time. Nothing's going to change that. North Dakota will go red. Tennessee, Tennessee's been interesting because that started out as a state that no one thought would go red. Then Phil Bredesen, the Democrat, started leading very early on. And once the primaries hit, Marsha Blackburn just bounced back, and she's been leading in pretty much every... Oh, that's Florida. My bad. All right. Marsha Blackburn's been leading in like every single poll since then. There are a few outlier polls that show maybe Bredesen up like 43 to 44. But with that many undecideds left, I don't think so. Tennessee goes to Marsha Blackburn, and Republicans hold on there. So, the state of Texas. The fact that Texas is this close is saying something. That for Democrats to win in Texas, it may not be as far as you think. It's a very conservative state. I'd say it's still very conservative until a Democrat actually wins in, say, a Senate seat or a governor's seat or a presidential race or something. So, Texas is changing, but not yet. Ted Cruz is still going to hold on. Beto O'Rourke did a good campaign, but I still think Ted Cruz has got this. Now, we'll go up to Montana. So, Montana, President Trump has gone here a few times, but the simple fact is Jon Tester is just popular enough, and I don't think Matt Rosendale is really not a bad candidate, but I don't think he's the best candidate they could have ran. And to be quite honest, in Montana, I don't really know any prominent Republicans that could have run, that could have beat Jon Tester. I don't know the state at all. So I think Montana will go to Jon Tester on election night. Also, I forgot to mention, with Mike Pence being the vice president, GOP have 50 seats, so that will give a Republican majority in the Senate. Now, we have 5 remaining toss-up seats. And, you know, I'm going to talk about this after. I'll just go to the individual races. Let's start off at West, as we usually do. Nevada and Arizona. These seats have a lot in common. Both of them either have an unpopular Republican incumbent or an unpopular Republican incumbent that chose not to run again in the case of Arizona. Both of them had Democrat candidates that led very early on, and after the primary still led a little bit, then lost their leads and are starting to pick that margin back up, and some polls showing them still ahead. So, Nevada and Arizona, well, what's going to happen? And my reasoning behind both of these seats, I'm going to see a lot of comments saying I'm biased or whatever, but I think Nevada and Arizona both go red because President Trump has made the caravan and immigration a big issue of these campaigns. And for any Republicans who maybe don't want to vote for Dean Heller or Martha McSally, the simple fact that Trump's bringing back up immigration in states that are very, very, very heavily affected by it, I think will be enough to bring out some more GOP turnout. And I saw a poll that actually showed Martha McSally, Arizona, 31% of the Hispanic vote. That's pretty good. For a Republican, that's pretty good. So, Dean Heller, while he is unpopular in Nevada, I think he'll have enough to hold on, especially after President Trump came to campaign for him. Martha McSally, the polls haven't shown it necessarily, but I think she'll end up getting more votes on Election Day because Arizona is a state that is trending more blue, but until a Democrat actually wins, I don't really put it against the Republicans to win now. Now, that's 52 Republicans, 45 Democrats. Missouri, Indiana, and Florida. These 3 are the races to watch on election day, honestly. I mean, all the toss-up states obviously are, but these 3 have gone back and forth from which candidate is going to win, like, at least over 10 times. And honestly, it's kind of getting like really, really difficult to tell. And of these three, Indiana may be the easiest one to tell because Joe Donnelly, as of 2 weeks ago, started to take a 1 to 2 point lead over Mike Braun. Well, that's only because of the Libertarian candidate. The Libertarian candidate is taking anywhere from 3% to 9%. And you look back in 2012, not different circumstances, but an independent candidate took 10%, and Joe Donnelly won by 2%. And I think for Joe Donnelly to win, that's what needs to happen. The Libertarian candidate needs to take a big percentage of the vote, because one-on-one, Mike Braun beats Joe Donnelly no problem. But with the third-party candidate taking that big of a percentage, I think ultimately, I do think that ultimately Joe Donnelly will barely hang on in Indiana, like less than 2% this time around. Now, Missouri and Florida. Missouri has gotten a lot closer than my previous predictions may have sounded. There have been some polls that show Claire McCaskill tying the race or barely ahead. There are some polls that show Josh Hawley ahead for a long, consistent time. And this is the race I've paid attention to the most because honestly I find it the most interesting. And Josh Hawley in this race has done a good job paying Claire McCaskill as far left, a part of the whole Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi thing, and that's out of touch with Missouri. If that's what he's trying to do, he's done a good job. Claire McCaskill, on the other hand, she's done a good job trying to paint herself as, no, I'm bipartisan, I'm with President Trump. And to her Democrat base, she's done a good job trying to do that. Now, it really comes down to whose message do you believe more, and who do you support more, Claire McCaskill or President Trump? And I believe Missouri will end up choosing President Trump and will vote for Josh Hawley. President Trump will be having his last campaign rally in Missouri right before the day before Election Day. His last one on Monday will be in Missouri. And I do think that'll be enough to give Josh Hawley a narrow win, anywhere from less than 1% to 3%. I think will be the gap. The state of Florida. In my last 3 or 4 prediction videos, I've flip-flopped on this one literally almost every single video. Florida is just so close now. The Senate and governor race are both within 2%. How do you decide a race that's between 2% and literally every single poll? The margin of error for most polls is anywhere usually from 3 to 4%, and every single poll for the past month has been within that margin of error. How do you decide how Florida is going to go? And the simple fact is, well, you have no idea. Usually half the time you're either right, half the time you're wrong. And I went on to Wikipedia, actually, because, I know, most trusted name, but they have more polls than Real Clear Politics does. So a Democratic poll has Nelson up 2. St. Pete polls has Rick Scott up 1. Harris, actress I've never heard of, has Scott up 2 and up 5. And then St. Pete polls from a week ago has Bill Nelson up 2. And all these polls you're looking at, the one I paid attention to the most is St. Pete. Because St. Pete, it polls close to 3,000 people at 2,700. And usually when it comes to polls, the more people you poll, the more accurate they tend to be. And it's shown St. Pete had Scott up early, and then it flipped to Bill Nelson, then to Scott again, then back to Bill Nelson, now back to Scott again. And I think that's indicative of how the race is going. I think President Trump going down there to campaign for Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis has helped. And I think that'll be enough. I think 49% to 48% Rick Scott win. I think that is exactly how it will happen. I think it may be like 49.2 to 48.4, something like that. It's going to be less than 1%. I think Florida, whoever wins, it's going to be really close. I do think that'll be enough for Rick Scott to narrowly get the win, narrowly edge it out. And that would cap off the midterm election cycle for the Senate, with the Republicans getting 54, Democrats getting 46. I've already talked for a long time, but once again, thank you for all the likes and support you've been giving this channel. I was just at like 10 subscribers a little over a week ago. Now I think I'm at like 30 or something like that. It's crazy. And the past 2 videos have gotten at least 2,000 views, I believe. So please keep watching the videos. Please keep subscribing. Tell all your friends. I'm really, really appreciating it. like and subscribe. And all I ask for one thing is, if you dislike the video because of a comment or something like that, if you dislike the video, leave a comment letting me know why. Because I would like to know if you don't like it, or if there's little things I can improve on, whether it's video quality or just predictions, whatever. If you dislike it, let me know why, because I'd appreciate any feedback that can help make the videos better for you. Alright, thank you for watching. See you in the next one, and if you haven't voted yet, please go out and vote. Alright, thank you. Have a good one.